cultivate a capacity for kindness. So, close your eyes. Take a few moments to breathe in and breathe out. Oh, it's odd. Alrighty. Welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I'm a psychiatrist, nothing we discuss on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational or entertainment purposes only. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I know it's a weird time to stream, but we've been doing a creator group stream. Did I say if y'all have any medical concerns or questions, please go see a licensed professional, because that's what y'all should do. So we've been doing a creator group stream for the last couple of months, actually, and we ended up extending it. And then the challenge became that everyone's, like, we had sort of set aside time, right? And then I think a lot of people, myself included, we hadn't planned on extending it this long. But I think a lot of people were getting value out of the group, so we decided to keep going. And so today is actually going to be our last stream with these creators. They've made a ton of progress. We're super proud of everyone in the group so far. And so today we're going to sort of like do a little bit of, I guess, kind of like a recap and just check in with people about what their experience has been like. And yeah, and also sort of like learn to say goodbye, which I think is an underutilized and increasingly important skill in our society. So let's actually hop in. Hey, y'all. I am live. Can y'all? Oh, hello. Let me see this. This is, okay, so let's go. Oh, that's the wrong view. Give me a second. Oh no, let's do this. You guys get to see my nose today. Nose view is a very special view. And then let's do, there we go. Oh, let's do this then. Nose view. I had to move my camera and stuff around a little bit, but hopefully that's good. How is everybody today? Okay, so it looks like I muted everybody, but that's fixed now. Yeah, so I think Zell may not be able to make it today. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you to all y'all for coming this long, right? I know that we had originally planned to end sometime in like November, but I think everyone was, or a lot of people seem to be getting value out of the group stream, so we sort of decided to extend it. And then I think a lot has changed since we started. And I also got sick like last week, and I think people's IRL stuff is starting to get into the way a little bit, which is great. So I understand that part of the reason, I don't know if y'all remember, but when Zell first started group, do y'all remember what his struggles were? Like what were some of his goals for group?
I feel like he was trying to find out what was the purpose of having something like this. We didn't really
Mhm.
have agenda or topic to follow. It's just kind of going with the flow.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
more to find out who he was, like what he wanted to do.
yeah, and I think a central part of that was like, oh, do I continue streaming or do I get a job? And do y'all know why he's not able to join us today?
because he's working.
Yeah, right.
Got a
So
gerb.
over the last 10 weeks, like we talked a little bit about what's important to him, and he actually ended up getting a job, which is part of the reason he's not here today. So we'll see if he has a chance to pop in. But this is going to be our last session. We can talk a little bit more about kind of options offline. But so what I was really hoping to do is offer some structure, a little bit around how to sort of do this last session. So what I'd love to hear from each of y'all is just a little bit about where you were when you started, where you are now, if there are any like takeaways that you have from this experience, and like things that you kind of want to continue doing that you may have learned to do here, and what else do you need to work on going forward. So where were you when you started, where are you now, any takeaways, and what you want to work on. And then what I'd love to do is actually give other people a chance to actually weigh in about you. So after you share a little bit about yourself, we're going to give everyone else a chance to kind of weigh in about what they've seen or observed. And if they have any kind of like observations about what they've seen you accomplish, or things that they think you should continue to do, or things that you may want to kind of work on. And yeah, does that sound good? Cool. Let's get started then. Who wants to go first?
There's no Zell to be like, I'll go first.
Right.
Mine's kind of a lot. But so when I started off, I was like extremely, what the hell was that? Low confidence. I was constantly putting myself down, just did not see myself with any value whatsoever. I even struggled just taking compliments. And we had a whole session about that. And now I just take compliments. And I would say that there, like, this year was kind of a mess. Honestly, this decade is a mess. Like, if we could just like start over, that'd be great. Or like if like we didn't have 2023 and it went straight to 2030 and we just like pretended, like just right over it, I'd be totally happy. But like at the beginning of this year, I was dumped. But it was like, I mean, I've been dumped before, but I thought we were really going somewhere. And it's not that she didn't love me or anything like that. It was that where she was in her life, it just wasn't possible to be in a relationship. And she said, like, I didn't do anything wrong at all. And it just felt really crappy to, like, do everything right, but still lose. And I was devastated. And I think it just sat with me for a really long time. But since I've been able to reevaluate my self-worth and feel good about myself, I kind of feel like I'm dating myself. Like, I'm in a relationship with me, and you know what? I think I'm pretty great. Uh, and So I think I'm eventually gonna make someone very happy, and I can't wait for that. But it'll come at the right time. And that feels good to think about that. But in the meantime, I got me. And we're just gonna make sure that I'm okay. As far as we're working on procrastination, I'm still struggling a little bit with that. I've had a couple moments where like I was going to a cottage trip and it was 10 minutes before I was getting picked up, and I was furiously packing and triple checking and stuff, and also cleaning up things that didn't need to be cleaned until I came back. And I just thought, why am I doing that? That's silly. But yeah, I am working on actually keeping things um intact so that I don't get caught by surprise, so that things are just ready to go. I've actually been applying to various positions. I had an interview with a company in Dallas for a remote position. I don't think I got it. I followed up, but it's okay. It was just good for the experience, and it felt good to get myself out there, at least professionally like that. This last week was brutal. It almost made me feel like it like flipped everything on its head, and I lost everything because last Monday I had my flu shot and my COVID booster at the same time, and then I just had a fever for 24 hours. And then that Tuesday night, the night after, my mom, who lives like 3 hours away, she had a negative interaction with an antidepressant that she was being adjusted to, and she wasn't feeling safe. And the doctor committed her to a psych ward, and this last few days, week, has been hard. I don't think I've ever been quite this upset in a very long time. Like how do you deal with that when your 74-year-old mother is in a psych ward? And last night and this morning, well, it's my birthday today, and I've had bad birthdays. I've had ridiculously bad reverb. I've had ridiculously bad birthdays, but I've had a fight with my roommate and moved out on my birthday. I've had my father forget my birthday twice. I've had a girlfriend forget my birthday. I've started antidepressants on my birthday. It's not a day that I look forward to, but having a birthday where you wake up and your mom's in a psych ward is, I gotta say, it was the goddamn worst. And I was supposed to see her today, but visiting hours didn't work out. And then an hour ago, I got a call from my stepdad saying she just got released and he's on the way to pick her up. And I was just like, that's like the fucking best birthday present I could have possibly gotten. And it's a huge weight off. And I think I'm going to be seeing her this weekend. And yeah, thank God. It's like, it just feels like it's over, and I can just get back to living a life again. Because I just didn't want to do anything this last week. It just felt impossible. So, yeah. And I know that my mom was even more upset that she couldn't see me for my birthday because we had plans and everything. It's like, this was brutal. But anyway, that's me. Hey.
Yeah. Wow. That's yeah. Anyone have words for Metric? And then let me actually just ask Zell, how long do we have you for?
I am available, so
Okay.
I'm good.
Hey.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming.
Get things, yeah. So.
Words for Metric, that I'm like so happy for you in the way that you like saying, no, now I'm dating myself. Like after that stream where we were giving you compliments and stuff, I genuinely wanted to I didn't, but genuinely part of me wanted to keep reaching out to you and be like, hey man, you know what we said was like true. How you feeling? Like I just wanted to make sure, like part of me wanted to make sure like I wasn't quite believing it was gonna sink in, and it has. And you've done like amazing, and I'm just super happy for you, and you've gone through a lot in the same time and still managed to keep that, like,
Honestly, I don't know how this would have been if I didn't get that call an hour ago. Like that that kind of makes a big difference. So I didn't expect it. I was actually going to be heading up this weekend to my parents' place just because my stepdad, he drives coach buses and he goes on like huge tours, and he was going to be gone all weekend, and they needed somebody to take care of the dog just in case my mom was still in the hospital. And so now I'm just going up to make sure that my mom's not alone this weekend, because I figure my mom shouldn't be alone this weekend after everything she's been through. So yeah. Yeah.
you're an amazing
But I
person.
appreciate that. No, you, but also me. Us.
Yes. And also well done for like applying to jobs and stuff, because I didn't even see that coming. Like,
Neither did I.
there you go.
Anyone else want to share anything that they've kind of observed about Metric over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I feel like affirming what you said, you seem more confident. A lot of less self-deprecating language, I'd guess. I feel like you have a more positive tone to whatever you're sharing with us. You show a lot of resilience, especially during such hardship. I know you got uplifting news, but you just seem like you have a more positive attitude towards everything. Like whether you're getting rejected by your job, you didn't really get too much into that, but you're just like, oh, I might not get it. Oh, well, moving
Yeah, I mean,
on.
I figured it was
There's
like
more
more than one
jobs.
interview. I got an
Yeah,
interview, but I figured it'd be more than one interview if I was going to keep going with it, right? But
yeah.
interview's an
There's
interview. It's practice.
Yeah, that's
So
just part of the job search. It's a lot of ups and
yeah,
downs. It's gonna be mentally exhausting, but you seem to be on a good start because
and
you're
I
positive
figured,
about it.
yeah, I figured December is going to be a dry month. Usually December's not really a hiring month, but like
Mhm.
January and February are. So let's go.
Yeah.
Try to
Even what
wait a
you
couple
said right
weeks.
now, you're very optimistic, which is good. I've encountered other people who are like, "Oh my God, I got rejected from this job," and they just kind of shut down completely. So the fact that you're here present and like, sharing that with us positively is it's very nice.
I appreciate that.
I can chime in. I mean, I think I think people have kind of already said it a bit, but like I just think that you just have
Zell's still
more of a
loading for me. Can people see him or hear him?
I can see him.
I
I
can
see
see him.
him.
oh
That's so weird. I
oh
don't see
okay
him or hear him at all.
Discord be wild
oh
and
Yeah, I can
Okay.
see
Yeah,
Zell
that's
fine
fine.
too. Yeah, maybe just try rejoining.
um, but what I was gonna say was just like I feel like you are more, how do I put this, like I don't even want to call it confidence, but it's just like you are more willing to have your presence known. I guess that's confidence, but in a way that it's just like I just feel like you, instead of being so worried about stepping on people's toes, you're more willing to take that space for yourself, and I think that's like um, I think that's a pretty big change, and I think like the positivity that we're talking about now is also a completely different flavor of positivity from when we started. I think like the positivity from before was very much like, yeah, guys, let's all just be friends and happy, and like
Yeah.
that way we can get nothing done, you know. And now I feel like this positive energy comes from a completely different source, and I think that's like huge. And I'm sure moving forward you'll have a different relationship with what being positive means to you, and I think that's really cool to see. Um, so that's my 2 cents.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm not gonna say like, oh, this changed my life, but because that feels cliche. But I feel like I've definitely learned how to pivot. So that's the thing.
kind of
Yeah.
like you've added more to your life instead of like I guess changed it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's like changing is like putting on like another coat of paint. It doesn't really like, to me at least, like pivoting means like the furniture's in the way. At least like move it around so that you can get around better and use it. So, which is also something I did, and honestly, that was great too. So,
Yeah. So, Metric, I know you say this didn't change your life, and I got to be honest with you, and I'm not just saying that because I'm involved here too. You seem like a completely different person. And I encourage y'all to like I'm thinking back to the first time we met you, just trying to figure out what you were doing with streaming, intimidation around getting rated or not getting rated. Are they bigger than you? Are they smaller than you? So concerned about what other people are thinking about you. All this self-deprecating crap, right? Like we always saw the value in you. And this is where you say, oh yeah, before this, I couldn't take compliments and now I can take compliments. I think it runs way deeper than that. I think deeper than your ability to take compliments is you stopped insulting yourself. And that's what's really paved the way for you. And I'm still stunned. I was not expecting you to have applied to a single job by the end of this, especially without us not meeting for a month. Like homework that I gave you and Kathy some time ago was like, help Metric put together a resume. And this guy comes back a month later and he's had an interview. And none of us saw that coming. Right? Like I was afraid that you would have slid back. And the last thing that I'd say is that you kind of say, okay, well, I got this good news today, and that's why I'm in a good mood. Which, fair enough. But I think the real progress that I've seen with you is that you've made progress in spite of your mood, not because of it. And what I saw before is someone who had difficulty with follow through, who'd get inspired by a particular emotion or wake up on the right side of the bed and would like do something or not do something. But even if you're, yeah.
Sorry, I've also been doing like stream adjustment stuff. So like, in some ways I don't know what I'm doing with my stream, but I've actually been putting my nose to the grindstone and like Premiere and After Effects and like making new doodads and animations and stuff like that. And it's going great. And 2023 we're doing miniature painting streams. Let's go. We're doing art. It's me.
Yeah, right? And so what I'm like, this is wild, dude. I think even if you had like, sure, we would have gotten a sad version of Metric, but even if you had not gotten good news today, the progress that you've made doesn't get taken away by that news. So, I remember a guy who wasn't sure, like, oh, are we doing Darkest Dungeon? Are we not doing Darkest Dungeon? Do I need a job? Do I not need a job? And what I'm hearing today is I'm taking care of my family. I'm taking care of myself. I'm going to get a job, and I'm excited to stream in 2023.
Hell yeah.
And so you say you haven't been transformed, and fair enough, right? Because that's like so grandiose.
Yeah,
and
it just feels like the day-to-day is not different, but like I feel different. I guess that's...
So this is the wild thing, is that transformation is not grandiose.
Right.
So we have these ideas that like, oh my God, I have to be like, this is how transformation happens. Like this fucker applied for a job and he got an interview and he showed up. Right? And every day you wake up and it's not some like magical thing where your mood is through the roof because that's what it would feel like to be transformed. You're not transformed. And yet your life, I think pivot is a beautiful word. I think if you stick with it, stuff will start happening. Right? You stick with, I have no idea if miniatures are going to work out. I have no idea if you're going to get a job offer in January. I have no idea, like what's going on with the procrastination. But I think that like the most important thing is don't beat yourself up. And to hear the guy who would take every opportunity to take a crack at himself, like say, hey, I'm going to like date myself for a while. Like that was fine, sure. But I'm going to make someone very happy one day. Like, I do not think Metric would have ever said that. The first version. Maybe as a joke. Maybe as sarcasm. But like the idea that you could bring happiness to a relationship, like what, man?
No, I'm going to do it. It's going to be great. Let's go.
Beautiful, dude. Right. So I want to commend you and everyone else. And I'm going to just chime in for a sec. Actually, I'm going to wait until we get to other people. But just to give Zell, does anyone want to give Zell some orientation about what we're doing today? Do y'all remember?
We're all
I just
pretty
see my
much-
brain just go,
Okay, I can
yeah,
do it.
Well-
Oh, no,
all
go
right.
ahead, Smirky.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. We're all essentially kind of like it's kind of like a sort of reflection mixed in with essentially. So it's kind of like, you know, where do we, you know, it's kind of like looking back on everything, where it's like, where did we start? You know, where do we see ourselves now? But also, just also kind of like a mix of like, what did you learn from this? You know, anything that you've like and then after like sharing your own kind of like take on it, we all also kind of like share what we observed about each other as well. I know that's not the exact wording, but
Yeah,
at least that's what my brain remembers.
That's perfect. So just to put it in slightly different words, so where were you when you started? Where are you now? Is there something that you really took away from this experience? And is there something that you want to continue to work on? So that's what we want you to share about yourself. And then we're going to give all of your colleagues opportunities to share what they've observed in you. Change, good, bad, like everything's fair game. What they think you need to work on. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. Yeah. So where I started, I started out knowing I wanted to do more than just being a streamer, and I've kind of like known that for a long time, building up to like coming to these sessions. I've obviously always wanted that because I've, you know, trained as a yoga teacher, trained as a sound therapist. I've done all these things that I've like brought into my streams, but I've never applied them anywhere else. And I've kind of learned that that was through fear, maybe, of putting myself like, I've always had this struggle to speak up for myself and kind of be proud of exactly what I know and what I can do. And I've always found it easier to minimize myself. And just like everything's been a little bit internal for me. So I think like this whole process has made me realize that everything I've worked on is very valid. I think also the people I've surrounded myself with as well, and the people in like streaming circles. It's, you know, there's a lot of like you all know, there's a lot of events you get invited to with a lot of like drinking and a lot of like popularity type contests, and I've kind of in the last few years grown out of that. It's not for me. And hence why I'm moving to the middle of nowhere, to get as far away from it. But I've learned what I've taken away from this. So I'll tell you what I've started doing in the time since we last saw each other, and so like now, I've started coaching a friend who was open, like they've never done anything yoga-wise, meditation-wise. It really has helped me realize how much I've got to give to someone. Someone who's never, ever taken the time to reflect on their own thoughts, and like then have a space to meditate in and someone to hold that space for them. And I've been doing that probably for about 4 weeks with them, and I've learned a lot from Dr. K. I keep everything that I'm doing with my friend in one place, and then we talk about other things in another place. Like we keep everything that we're doing in one, in like almost in like a professional manner, so that they can switch off from it and I can switch off from it, and then we can come back to it. And when we have our normal conversations, we still send each other cat memes, and the two don't cross over. And I've said to them as well, like, this is going to be for helping me in a way, but I really want to like show you some of the stuff that's helped me and start practicing some of the stuff I've learned, some of the stuff that I've trained for, some of the stuff that I've been doing. And I've been getting really nice feedback from them. Just like yesterday, they were like, I can feel that I think differently about myself and what I'm doing. And and this has just been so simple. Stuff that because I just practice and it's stuff that's just, I've kept internally to myself, and I don't realize like not everyone out there does know breathing exercises. Not everyone out there does know, just to slow down, or when people are being a certain way, like, yeah, just stuff that I have just never applied really to someone. So I've started that, which is also, I've started working on a potential business plan. I'm being quite open with that because I still haven't moved house, as you've noticed. There's lots of legal stuff going on over a piece of land right now. I need to be in Portugal by March. So I need to like purchase the house by then and the land. So I'm not being too strict on that, but I've started like, putting these things I know need to be used. So I kind of feel kind of more confident in it. And that's where I am kind of now. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ruby. Does anyone have thoughts about what they've seen Ruby accomplish or how she's changed over the last couple months?
I would definitely say Ruby's become more open about her feelings and more, I would say it not just that, but she would push herself away so that others could say something, or she would sacrifice her own empathy for herself just to take care of other people. And seeing her take care of herself more is frankly really comforting, to know that she's not leaving herself out in the cold. I think Ruby's the kind of person who would give you the clothes off her back, but at least she's saving the t-shirt, so that's fine.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, a lot of what Ruby kind of told us about like her training in her, like yoga and all these things, like it almost felt like a wall being put up to kind of like shield herself from, like, I don't, that was just the impression that I got. It was almost like a way to shield herself from being the focus of things, and like offering her expertise to other people, and it was almost like this way of like deflecting the point from herself to other people. That's like kind of how I felt. And like over time, kind of to build off of what Metric was saying, is like I do feel like there's this more genuine openness with the things that you're going through, and I think like that's awesome. And I think like, you know, it's I just think of I don't know if you guys know this joke about like Pascaglia or whatever, where it's like the clown, and he goes to a therapist, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so unhappy all the time." And the therapist says like, "Oh, you should go see this great clown in town, and he's great." And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm the clown." Like so like it almost feels that way with Ruby, where like Ruby has all these like clearly all this expertise in this area, but the one person that she hasn't been helping this entire time was herself. And so like I think that sort of openness about that was really really great, and I hope that continuing forth that you don't forget about yourself in that process. And I think that's it's super cool to see you kind of like move forward with all this stuff. So
And just to add, I think one thing that she mentioned was that she had been hurt pretty badly by others in the Twitch sphere and like the social media sphere. But in all of this, like after this is all done, I could see actually being pretty good friends with Ruby. I could see it. If she'd have me. because I think she's willing to. There's still hope there that she can put herself out, and not, you know, not just close herself off forever. Physically fine, yeah, live on that mountain. That's a great idea, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really I hadn't even thought about that. I didn't want friends, did I at all? I like didn't want to talk to anyone. Um yeah, and I think also like this whole process, I can't remember who it is. I've been trying to remember who the quote's from, but it's like if you think you're enlightened, just move back in with your parents. And I can't remember who that quote's from. Dr. K might know. But yeah, like when I started all of this, I just moved back in with my parents as well. So I think after like uh 13 years. So I think like I've gone through a bit of a self journey around like why I minimize myself and stuff and like love my parents dearly, but sometimes when you are around people that you start to and you've grown in that time you've been away and you come back, you start to realize where some of these things come from.
Well said. Anyone else want to chime in about Ruby or?
I've just appreciated you like being in this group, whether it was just like I don't know, just having someone who was observant and listening, someone who was calm and collected, but also bright by nature, and then someone who would always take the opportunity to be um, you know, vulnerable at times, and you know, on the whole theme of like being able to open up and share more, and you know, uh, kind of like take away some of those like walls that Zell had kind of mentioned, and opening up that side. Um, I, certainly I think just had a great impact overall. So I don't know. That's all I can really say. It's been really great having you here.
Thank you. I appreciate you all.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a journey for you of self-focus and reflection. I feel like in the beginning we're just kind of like, oh, we're streamers, like, this is what we do, it's our bread and butter. But then at the end, I feel like articulating a lot of the ideas that you've had, you're kind of putting them in motion. You're gonna them and you have a lot of hope for your future. So that's the idea I'm getting from your experience here with us.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, so if you pay attention, there's like a theme from your colleagues, which is actually like you've grown for yourself. So I want to just highlight a couple things. So you use the word compartmentalize. I think actually like a really good example of your growth is when you had the impulse to help Metric and follow up with him, right? Like, oh, like, are you okay? Are you still loving yourself the way, like, you wanted to make sure that he was okay? And I think your ability to restrain yourself from doing that is actually quite impactful. On the one hand, if you had done that, I think you would have actually sabotaged Metric's independence. So your restraint allowed him to develop his own confidence. Because if you're not careful and you've got a self-deprecating person and a loving person, a warm person, a compassionate person, y'all will just continue to tango. And you'll provide all the love and support he needs, and he'll never have to grow up.
I've actually been reflecting this on past friendships and as to why they fall apart, because if I step away, they think like everything is crashing down because I'm the one actually giving them what they like, the extra support, what they need, to a degree that they're leaning on me too much, or like they're expecting me to give it to them. And
Ruby enabler tier 3 sub emote right there. Let's go.
yeah.
So
there's such thing as being like too caring.
Absolutely. And I think all of your colleagues saw the impact, right? Because while you're keeping them from crashing down, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. What's crashing down when you're propping them up, Ruby? Absolutely. And we saw it. Like, if you go back to week 1, 2, like, tears were flowing all day, every day. And you gave too much of yourself. And I think what we're sort of like noticing, I would use the word manifesting. Like, I think all of what you've learned, you would like do this thing and that thing and this thing and that. Like, you learn, right? Learn this thing and learn this thing and learn this thing. And there wasn't an application or manifest. I mean, I'm sure there was. Like, you'd bring things to stream and stuff like that. But even in the way that I'm noticing that even with your friend, like, you're helping her become independent instead of supporting her. And so, like, you mentioned the word compartmentalize. I think another way to put it is like you've learned how to set boundaries that has preserved your own energy. And so then you've been able to like channel it a little bit more into your own stuff because you were like, you know, money in, money out to make the world a better place. And your own house is falling apart because you're so busy repairing other people. So I think it's been great that you've actually learned how to restrain your compassion, to set some boundaries, to compartmentalize, as you put it. And I think what we're seeing is that when you start doing that, actually your own stuff will start to come to fruition. So fantastic. I'm very hopeful for your future, and especially the way that you've learned how to, as all of your colleagues put it, like take care of yourself.
I'm trying. I'm trying. It's still hard living here, but like I'm trying.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Right? Who wants to go next?
I can go, I guess. Smirky, I saw your hand up, so if you want to go.
Now you can go first. I'm totally fine with it.
Okay.
I was gonna be like, yeah, and then y'all went, and I was like, I'm fine with it. All good.
Okay. um yeah, so I think I have changed a lot about how I just am in tune with things in general. It's funny because the last session that we had, so the homework that I've had for the last month that I've been keeping in my back pocket is this idea of just like trying to recognize my own feelings, recognize my emotions, and I've in that time learned a lot about myself and sort of my because just to remind everyone the context here is that like my homework was that anytime I felt tired or had some sort of resistance to something, to keep track of it and to like think on it. And the thing that I found was that I feel resistance, but it's almost immediately overwhelmed my sense of like logic and whatever to like get over that and to just like fight through it. And it's so fast that like it took me a while to even realize that it was happening, that I'm just constantly overriding that sense of resistance. And I'm still at this point figuring out how I can actually slow that process down to actually understand where that resistance comes from. And that's been like my current point. And so like the way I see it, the metaphor I would use is like I think my emotions and my feelings are wrapped up in this like gigantic Gordian knot that cannot be untied. And I'm learning to kind of like unravel it little by little and like trying to understand kind of what's inside of that knot. And I know I still have a lot of work to do in that front. And even this conversation we're having probably already tells you exactly how far I feel like I've come from the very beginning of things. Cause like, I don't think I would have even thought to even begin that process of unraveling that in the beginning. And so that is where I see a lot of my personal growth, and where I think in the future that I will continue to need help with, honestly, is like figuring that part of myself out, because my entire being, I guess, like up to this point has just been about gritting my teeth, just, just doing the things I have to do. It's like my sense of like diligence has almost been my biggest enemy, because like I'm just somebody who can just grit my teeth and do it, and like, and I will just do that. But now it's like I want to figure out how I can, instead of just gritting my teeth through everything, do things for my own purpose, for my own self, for my own like feeling of you know contentment, I guess. And so I'm having to it's weird that I'm having to like fight back against my own sense of like yeah, just diligence and there's a better word for what I'm thinking of, but like, I'm just trying to take care of myself one step at a time and trying to understand myself a little bit. So um yeah, that's where I'm at.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, I was sitting here thinking like Zell's talking about feelings.
And like doing what makes himself happy. What happened? Who? Where? It's gonna
What
like
was
pull
that?
back his face,
What
and there's
was
gonna be like a lizard or something. I don't.
what was the thing that like Dr. K was like, yeah, you are like, what was it? Like not like stupid, but like yeah, you regurgitated it to yourself. What was it? Because I just think back to that moment and then I look at where you are now. Where it's just so, oh man,
Oh, yeah,
it's
when you
been,
said it sucks to be you.
yeah, it sucks to be you.
Yeah.
That yeah. And yeah, now we're just like, who the hell is Zell anymore? Like, what happened to this guy?
Yo, I want to hang out with this guy. This guy sounds great. To watch
I'm
some
still
anime.
figuring it out, so I'll let you guys know.
Just the part where you said that you're focusing on, or you can focus on what makes you happy. Like, that's mind blowing.
Mm.
That's not the guy. That also that like you said that you're working on it, that you're figuring it out, but when you came in here you were like practically demanding a system and answers and like a path, right? And now you feel like you can tackle that independently. That's incredible.
And the fact you've held on to that homework for so long, that's just like
I needed those
for
weeks
me.
for that homework, honestly. That
Yeah,
homework assignment was far more like deep than I thought it was going to be. Like literally, if we had that session like a week after, I would have came in and been like, I don't know. I would have been like, I don't feel tired about anything. I just grit my teeth and just do it. So like, I needed that extra time to actually sit there and think about it and to like slow down my process of just pushing my head against the brick wall and to yeah just slowing that down to really like narrow in on why that's happening and like actually divulging into like why that resistance is actually there even though my brain is so quick to override it. um yeah.
Anyone else want to chime in about Zell?
It's just been amazing to watch you over all these sessions and how much you've evolved and like not changed, not transformed, but you're like, it really does suck to be me, and I'm just gonna like take some time and just like sit with this and just like think about it and like it's just been great. I don't know. That's a side comment, but it's been great.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to word it. There's like Zell came in with one kind of self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and you thought you had self-awareness. Now Zell has got this other kind of self-awareness that's realized that like there's more to this, and you're trying to unpack it. And like, I think it's like Smirky saying when Zell came in, Zell wanted answers, and now Zell realizes that like he has the answers. He just needs to find them like somewhere there.
Maybe
Like
the answers were inside of us all
all
along.
along, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
but like this extra time, I think, has kind of done that. Like you were saying, you would have come in like a week later and you'd been like, yeah, I don't know, I just get on with things. But because you've had the time, like the self-awareness of you saying like, I know I need to get through this like feeling, and I can't remember your exact words, but the awareness that you know what you're trying to do for yourself is, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've gained a sensitivity for my own self, and I had always sort of felt like I was self-aware, but it was always from a reasoning, rational standpoint that turns out can be not super always rational, and like, um, yeah. So I definitely have gained that skill, I think, a little bit. And it's starting to be developed a bit.
Yeah, it's great to see that how you're actively working on it. I noticed how diligent you were with taking notes. It's kind of inspiring to see you like, oh, this is like a active journey for myself. This is what I've noticed, and you're not being derisive or you're not being dismissive about it at all. You're like sharing this with us, like, oh, this is what I've noticed, and you may not have the answers now, but like if you keep working at it, you will get some more insight about yourself. They'll make you happier, more content.
I am gonna miss those expressions of like watching your brain break when you're trying to process something though. It's just like that looks great. Like
Don't worry, Metric. We may have one more chance at that in a few seconds. Yeah, so if I can just summarize. So first of all, I think Metric said it really, really well. That when you showed up here, you started looking for answers on the outside, and now you're looking for answers from within. Right? Which is like, it's so cliche, and it's such like, I'm sure that Ruby has said that a dozen times on her various streams at times, that's where answers come from. But really, I think you've started to do that. And I think your other colleagues have really noticed a lot about what you've put into it. I really liked what Kathy had to say about you can take that diligence and you can apply it to things that you don't understand, and like you'll get there. Like I think you're on a great journey, and we all sort of see that. I know it's a little bit bewildering for you, it's a little bit confusing for you, but that's okay. I got the sense that when you showed up here, you were moving really, really, really fast, but had no idea what direction to go. Like moving 100 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, and like just, but in what, like no one knows. Like where do you need to go? You don't know, but you got to get there fast. And you got to work really hard. Why? Who cares about why? Who's got time for why? We got to get there. Right? And now you've started to discover that, oh, like there's this voice inside me. And then you say, yeah, so a couple things I'd like to push back on, and so that's something for you to think about. So when you say that you've got like this inkling of a desire, right? And then this diligence that you have like overrides the tiredness right away. And you say, my own diligence overrides the tiredness. So this is a question more for other people because this could be hard for you, but we'll give you the first crack at it. Is it your own diligence that overrides your impulses?
I mean, I think it's tough because I think it's a learned mechanism that I've learned from my like upbringing. So in essence, it isn't like doesn't originate from me, but I've taken it into myself.
Very good. That's the right answer, right? And so how did you learn to forget your internal voice? Your parents originally taught you something, and then you started internalizing it. And now you do it to yourself. So whereas your parents didn't care about what you wanted to do and decided, we're sort of demonizing them here. I'm sure they're wonderful people, right? And they did what they knew best, which especially being like an immigrant, right? So like coming to the United States, like there was a certain formula for success, which people had to adhere to, which is how they got here. And they tried to pass on that formula of success to you. But the world that we grew up in is very different from the world that our parents grew up in. And the world that they grew up in was not as different as the world that your grandparents grew up in, right? The rate of change is increasing. So formulas are becoming outdated more quickly. Hell, even the formula for success 10 years ago is different from what it is today. And that's something that I know all y'all know intimately as streamers, because it changes so fast. And so the last thing I'll kind of like leave you with is, Zell, you say you've come a long way? Yeah?
I think so.
You think you have a long way to go?
Yeah.
What
Thank
if I
you.
said you didn't have a long way to go? What if I said you're pretty close to the end?
On one hand, I'd be kind of relieved, TVH. I like. I've been kind of joking about this on my own, but like, all this self work and stuff is exhausting.
You're damn right it is.
and I'm like, God damn it, dude! Like how? Like I'm working now. I have less time for myself. I'm like, how does anyone have time to do this and to, and like, yeah, I don't know. It's tough, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so I know it's kind of weird, but this whole idea that life is hard and you've got to grow and you've got to learn and you have to figure everything out. We have to untie the knot, right? We can't leave the knot tied. Heaven forbid we put down the mantle of self-improvement for a little while and enjoy things. Because you're exhausted. Because you're doing a lot of work. And you've got a job. What would it be like to stop working on yourself for a little while? To say, hey, you know what? This is actually okay. This is enough. I don't need to grow a whole lot more. Not right now. Sure, maybe tomorrow. But today, like, I can actually, if I don't feel like doing this. Because you got to be careful, right? Because here we are talking about diligence. And when you feel tired, what do?
Burnout.
I just trample right over it.
Yep. Got to do self-improvement. Got to have a job. So if you're not careful, even self-improvement will be actually like playing into your own patterns. You're going to be a good little Korean boy and get an A+ in self-improvement. And graduate
Yeah,
in 3 years instead of 4.
I have to learn to relax myself. I've taken this sort of like self-help thing pretty far for myself, like I wake up, I stretch every day. I bought like a little magnetic board on my fridge and I download an app that generates like daily positive affirmations and I write my daily calorie I'm taking it far, I realize. And as I say this out loud, like I am realizing that even this, I can't help myself but to go fucking all in. And maybe I should learn to relax my neurotic brain on this stuff. So, yeah, that's a Jesus.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Maybe you should, I'm not saying you should do this because boundaries, but maybe you need to go visit this cottage that Metric goes to on the weekends.
Hey, pretty good.
And I remember when Ruby kind of said that she was surprised when she discovered she had something in common with you. I think it's hilarious that Ruby's working
Now you're
on
doing things I've done.
Yeah.
I mean, Zell is talking about feelings and Ruby is writing business plans. Like,
Yep.
what happened here?
And Zell's got affirmations on his fridge.
I know!
And I've deleted them
Yeah.
off my phone to say, like, my phone used to give me affirmations
What?
all the time. I've taken them up. They're gone.
What happened here?
Right? It's hilarious.
I was just thinking about that too, Dr. K, about how like they like found their relationship and now how they just it's so funny.
They did like the DBZ
Oh.
fusion dance thing. It's like, yeah.
And
They
when you
they,
started-
they had their time to, and now they've I don't know, they've like
when you started
unfused
saying
with,
to Zell that, like, the self-help burnout thing, I was like, oh gosh, I see this in so many people in the circles that I'm in. This idea that you'll never be fixed, and this idea that you always have to be working on something. And it's almost, it's something I'm very, very aware of in what I want to do. I know I've talked about like snake oil and stuff, but it's this idea that you can constantly sell self-help to people. And I've been there, and like I've then had breaks from it and gone, hey, I can just be a person that doesn't have to constantly like analyze everything.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's actually the whole point, right? You can constantly sell self-help to people because none of it works. That's the only way that you can continue to sell it. That's the only way that you can have an industry. So I don't know if y'all have seen that meme. Have y'all seen like the bell curve meme of like the person who's really bad, and then like the middle rank person, and then the high rank person? So it's like this meme is like no affirmations on phone. No, we need affirmations on the phone, and then uninstalling affirmations on the phone. If you guys know the meme, I guess it'll make sense. But if you don't, it's... Anyway, thank you all very much for your comments. Who wants to go next?
Did you want to go, Kathy, or did you want to wait until last?
I can go next.
Sure.
I think in the beginning of this, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I was at a very chaotic moment in my life, and I feel like I still am in some chaos. But I guess for me, this whole group session was interesting to see how like everyone is going on their own journeys, and to see how people have transformed. For me personally, I feel like I don't know if I've really transformed. I've been taking a lot of things in, and one thing I've noticed is that I feel like this group kind of helped me kind of evaluate some of the things that I like, say or express, like, oh, maybe that's like inconsistent. Why do you do this? Like, let's, dig deeper. And in my day to day, not a lot of people do that to me. No one really challenges me like that. They just kind of take in what I say and then we just like move on with conversation. And I feel like this has brought me some insight, if that makes sense. And maybe that kind of like, I don't know, maybe that becomes connected as to why I was saying before, like, oh, I want to explore why I don't really feel connected to my friendships or my other relationships. And maybe it's because I don't really, dig deep into people's journeys like this, like really get to know them. Like, yeah, I could talk about the weather, I can talk about TV shows. I have all sorts of topics to just chat about, especially as a streamer. You can just talk about anything. So yeah, I feel like that's my own observation throughout all this.
Kathy is like one of the most resilient people I have ever met in my entire life. Because like in the time that we've been doing this, you had 2 family members pass away. You moved. You were doing multiple flights. You would like check in right after landing or something, or you're just about to take off to somewhere else, and I can't even imagine how hard the last few months have been. Like this last week's been hell for me, but like you lived it for months. I can't fathom it. You moved to a whole new city. Like that's goddamn. That's a lot. And on top of that, you've always like maintained this air of like, okay, this sucks, but I can keep going. And or I'm not sure where my job is going or what I'm going to do with my career, but I'm confident that I can keep moving up. And that's like those are things I wish I had, that I'm learning from you, but like in a lot of ways you've been an inspiration, because like when I was this last week when I was freaking out about my mom, like you were one of the people I thought of. And I was like, how would Kathy have handled this? And it's intense, like how you've given me this idea that like you don't just have to break down and live in your bed. Because my first thought was I'm just gonna live in my bed, and I mean, yeah. Anyway, and I didn't. I got up. In fact, I've been getting up earlier and doing more things. even if things have been even more upsetting. So thank you.
I had a I had some tears come to my eyes. It's really nice to hear, especially like when I was going through my grandmother's death. It was really hard. But just like being strong, or I guess resilient for everyone.
You're a
Made me
fucking
feel like
warrior.
better.
You really are. It's amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that when you first met you on here, are you okay?
Yeah.
You
Sorry.
sure? No, don't say sorry. Okay. I don't want to like change subject or if you want to talk about anything or
Oh no, sorry. You can continue. I was like, oh my god, liquid on my face, ruining my makeup.
Not while you're at work. Crap, what did I do? Shoot. Oh.
Yeah, I'm at Blizzard too. I'm at one of the offices. I'm gonna come out of my office crying.
Oh, you can just blame us.
I had a tough Zoom call.
We'll take the blame.
You could give them my email. They can tell me off.
He said mean things.
Yeah.
But there was a real turning point. Like there was a turning point when you suddenly like blossomed. I know it sounds like a strange word, but it's like suddenly we started to get to know Kathy, and I don't want to bring up like stuff that's happened because you just stopped crying. But I think with everything you were going through and the combination of coming to speak to us, there was a point there where it was like, oh, and like you were saying, you previously like talk about the weather and things like that. It was like suddenly that switched off, that mode, and you just opened up and you connected more, and we started to see a different side of you, and I really appreciated it and enjoyed it, and it was suddenly like, wow, like this woman is like not only like Metric says resilient and smart and like wants to achieve so much and wants to learn so much and has got so much to give, and I can learn so much from her, and you're really inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah, to chime in, I felt like it took some time to sort of peel back the layers a little bit because I remember in the very beginning, it was like you're kind of like very observational. I remember us having that conversation like, are we like making you uncomfortable by any chance or whatever? And you just told us like you're like, no, 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 I'm just observing, it's fine. And then when we started to talk with you and to go through some of these things, I also remember how again there was another additional layer of like you were kind of always like, yeah, no, I'm like, it's good, it's fine, like, I'm, you know, and then we got like even a little layer deeper, and then we kind of like figured out like you kind of have this way. I think the way Dr. K would put it is like kind of like aikidoing these sort of statements that come at you, and like I felt like we finally like now I feel like you have opened up to us in a way that like I couldn't have imagined definitely day one from where
Oh
we
yeah.
were at to now. And I think that's dope. And like I mean I would like echo everything else that everyone has said already, that like I think you are obviously just like an incredibly strong person. Like I don't know, sell these what would Kathy do type, bracelets or whatever. But like, I just, I don't know. I don't know. I just think like, I remember just being like, God damn, like, I could use more Kathy energy in my own life to figure out the things I want to do. So, yeah, that's those are my
It's
observations.
nice to hear. Thank you.
Felt that. That's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's interesting, Kathy. I was inclined to agree with you. I don't think you've been transformed over the course of this group until Metric opened his mouth. And I think that, like, what we just saw in the last 15 minutes, I think is quite amazing. So my take on your time here, I think you got a lot out of the group, but I would say that if Metric pivoted, sure. Zell turned into Ruby, Ruby turned into Zell, totally fine. I think what I noticed in you was actually, like, I wouldn't say transformation, but honing, sharpening. So I noticed that you took away a lot from this. I think there were a couple of really concrete things, which even like Smirky has teed you up beautifully for, right? So Smirky was like, do you want to go or do you want me to go? And there's a very active thing which you've started doing, which is like taking space. So at the very beginning of group, you weren't taking any space. We kind of noticed it, but it was actually like really subtle the way that we asked, hey, can we spend a whole time, like a session talking about you? And you're like, yes, you can. Yes, I can be the focus. I don't have to take a step back. And when it comes to some things to consider kind of going forward is like, you're sort of saying that you have these relationships that remain a little bit shallow and you can talk about the weather, sure. But what did you talk about in here? Like, in that too, I think you did a really good job of like talking about, hey, you're like, actually, that's from my therapist. I don't need to talk about that here. But something about the authenticity of what you shared, people got to know who you are. Even though, in a sense, I think you tried really hard to not let them. And you tried to let them, right? It was kind of weird because I think your instincts had you moving in one direction, but you intentionally chose to like open the door for them and they walked through it. And that's why I think we have this, like, what we just saw. So do I think I mean, not that you have to transform. I think it's totally fine to like come here and hone, right? To like learn. I think you had very, very sharp observation skills, which you also improved. Like, so you kind of even observed with Metric at the beginning of the session how he doesn't make like self-deprecating statements and things like that. You were like, you wouldn't have said that some time ago. So I think you actually took a lot. I think that the group I don't know how much you've changed in group, but I have a feeling that group is going to help you a lot over the next year. So I think a lot of people got a big XP boost for the last 3 months. I think you're going to get a 10% buff over the next year. As you take what you've learned in group and you apply it to your life, as you start to give yourself permission to take more space in relationships, that's what's going to form the authentic connections. Reason your relationships are surface is because you don't let anyone in. Right? I know that's kind of a damning thing to say, but I think it's like, I mean, right? And there's some people that obviously you let in, which I can see. But there's a select few who get VIP access. And I think it's been really, like, I think you really deserve to give yourself a pat on the back, because I think what you started to do here, sure, you had a lot of this stuff down and you were kind of like, yeah, I'm going to meet with my mentors. I've got all this stuff sort of figured out. I know what I'm going to do. But this idea that you can be like inspiring to people, this idea that you can, I know you bring a lot of value to the table. I'm sure you're really good at pitching for a raise or a promotion and sort of laying all that out. But the idea that like you as a human being, without doing something for someone, without trying to do something for someone, that just the way that you are, and even with your struggles and stuff like that, that you can be inspiring, that you have inherent value that doesn't have to be pitched and demonstrated. That's hard. It's scary. And your colleagues did such a good job of listening, and you thankfully opened the door for them. And like, They got to see this amazing person that you are. And I'm very optimistic for you. I think, I'm sure you took good notes and stuff, and I can see that you're already implementing things, and just keep doing that. And there's nothing, I mean, there's a lot to be afraid of, but I don't think you need to be quite as afraid as you are. And it's okay if people, try opening the door from time to time. That's really what I would leave you with.
Thank you.
And strong work, Metric. Everyone levels up at a different pace.
Very true.
Smirky.
Hi. I'm gonna be honest. Like I definitely I will admit that like I was staring at this Discord at like 2 o'clock, being like, do I really want to join right now? Do I have the energy to join? And I'm really glad that I did. Just because when I really do think about like where I started, like I mean, listening to everyone has also allowed me to like really like take the time to think about things. But when I think about like coming into this group on day one, I also think I was on like the I have like no sense of direction train, because I had just moved and gotten out of my parents' house after a couple months and was still trying to understand like what trajectory I'm going on. And obviously I I think I've missed a good number of sessions before this one, so that kind of puts me at a bit of a disadvantage. But when I think about like where I am today, I certainly still have things that I need to work on. I'm not like perfect by any means, and there are things that I've talked about that I am still trying to sort through. But when I think about things that like I have noticed about myself through group, certainly uh I feel like I've also been pretty observant as well. Just uh for one, making sure that like I can actively listen to people, because I think it's one thing to like just sit here and listen to people, but it's a whole nother thing to like actually digest information and like truly participate in the conversation as a listener, because you can participate in the conversation as I am speaking right now, but but we're all like participating as listeners too, and that's what makes group so special. That's what makes it so beautiful whenever we listen to each other, and then that's where we give each other comments, what we noticed about each other. So I think in terms of my own active listening, I think it's certainly a skill that I'm always improving, that I'm always getting better at. And what else? Certainly also in the sense of like figuring out, like coming in not knowing my direction, I feel like nowadays I'm kind of like doing well at uh defining what directions I would like to go down, and kind of like, I guess, putting one foot in front of the other, and kind of like starting to take charge a little bit. Certainly the world is still kind of, all these different things as a young 20 something year old person, recent college grad. But, I feel like I've definitely been uh, learning a lot. Whether it's through group, whether it's through living with my friends in this crazy busy house, which you might hear noise in the background. Hi friend, as my friend walks by right now. Or I don't know. Or just like me being the person who has been traveling to all these different events and doing all those industry different things. I think through a lot of it, it's really made me grow, both in group and throughout the year. So um, I guess that would be my little fun little summation of my experience with group. So open the floodgates.
Oh, sorry. Anyone
so
else have thoughts about Smirky?
I follow Smirky on Twitter, and so I would see him when also at Twitter. .com slash Smirky. Yeah, follow at Smirky. Go follow him. Anyway, great guy. Anyway, I've been watching him like all the last few months, just killing it in his charity work, in going to these events, and he's talking about we're not sure where he's going, but he's laying the groundwork for an incredible career. Like, you see him actively going out and meeting these people. Like, he posted a picture of him meeting Christopher Judge at the Game Awards, and I hope to God that guy talked your ear off if he talked as long as he did at the Game Awards. And then he had a picture with him and Doug Bowser, president of Nintendo.
Doug Bowser talked my ear off more than Christopher Judge
Like
did.
that, how cool is that? How cool is that? like
It was cool.
it's like, it's yeah, sure, maybe you couldn't make all the sessions, whatever, that happens, but at the same time, like, you're working on you, and that's who's gonna fault you for that. Like, you're doing the things that you need to do so that the next several years are successful. I mean, I wish I had those opportunities, and I don't, but you're taking advantage of them. And then there was one thing that I told Zell at the beginning, was that, like, I think luck is a skill, and you have to be prepared to take advantage of your opportunities. Some people are given opportunities, but they're not ready to jump on them right away. But when I see you, I see someone who's willing to be like, oh crap, I got to fly out tomorrow for this thing. Well, better pack my bags, and that's really cool. I don't know too many people who can just do that. Like me, I'm just like, but my bed is so comfy. And I mean, I that's definitely something that I have to work on. So someday,
In short,
hopefully
it's
I'll
not
be
luck. In short,
yeah,
it's not luck or skill, but you're saying luck and skill. That's
yeah.
that's what I'm
It's
getting here.
it's taking advantage of the opportunities that present them to you, and it's something that I want to be better at. So hopefully someday I'll be more like you in that regard.
Oh, thanks.
I was
I
gonna
appreciate it.
say similar to, like, I followed Smirky on Twitter as well.
Wow, everyone follows me on
Yeah,
Twitter.
We're stalking you.
Go follow
We're
him right
like, where
now.
is
Go
he?
follow him. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I don't know if it's combination of group and the stuff you've been putting yourself into, but the way in which you speak, I feel there is a change, and it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the way that when you first started speaking in group, and I know we were all being very polite and blah blah blah, you would say things almost as if they were wrong, or you were going to get it wrong, and now you say things as if, like, this is what I'm saying, and there's not that energy tone end of sentence thing. And whether that's come from going out and meeting lots of people, or it's come from, like, talking to all of us, there is a change in you that I can see. And yeah, like, at the beginning, I wanted to the person that wanted to help again, I was like, I really like Smirky. I really, like, they could do so well. If, like, I really want, like, something in me was like, wanted to, like, just want you to, like, stop making your sentences sound like they're like questions, or maybe you're wrong, but there's a confidence in what you just said, like, now, just that whole everything you just said. If you were to watch, like, the first few, there's like a different confidence in it.
I get exactly where you're coming from for sure. I definitely do. So I appreciate you sharing that, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, echoing what everyone's been saying, you've been traveling a ton. I remember in the beginning, you're like, oh, I streamed this, older game, you haven't heard of it. When I was a StarCraft streamer and I went to these events, it was really hard for me to see, like, justification as to why I was even there. And then usually I just stop traveling for a little bit. But to see, like, you just keep going at it, to have genuine and authentic interest in this industry, I think that too is pretty inspiring. I didn't know you were recently graduated, or I might have missed that. You have so much activity around you, living in a bustling. Is it a content creator house or something, or just hanging?
Sort of, kinda. There is a fellow content creator streaming right now, and I know
Oh
my
wow.
friends from the Toontown/content creator space,
Mhm.
so there's always something going on in this house. Literally, the puppy was just running up to me and walking. I don't know. There's always something going on in this house.
Yeah, you have a lot of energy in you and just around you. So, yeah, thanks for taking the time to come to these group sessions and just sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you for saying that.
I was gonna say that there's a bit of a slight disadvantage here because I feel like the rest of us have had so many sessions, but at the same time, I think kind of to build on what other people have said, like I think even through the whirlwind of your current life with traveling and these opportunities that you will continue to have, like for you to say that like it's about remaining like present and alert of like understanding and being present for what people have to say and listening and like to take that in and to like find yourself to be like become a rock for yourself to not get swept by all these things that are happening around you, I think will be important. And for you to recognize that for yourself, I think is like really big. And yeah, I just I think that's really cool. So
Yeah, yeah, thank y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to echo what you and what everyone else said. So I think the biggest change I've seen in you, Smirky. So I'm gonna say that there's like half and half of what happened to other people and what happened to Kathy. So I think there's been some change and some honing too. Where if you go back and you watch the beginning, I think you were talking a lot and not saying very much. And if you actually go back, one of the things I don't know if y'all noticed, but I leaned on Smirky the most to help him as a to help me as a facilitator because I noticed that he started becoming a really, really, really good listener, and he started the impact of what he said increased even though his talk time decreased. And so what started to really happen, I think this is maybe ADHD or who knows what, but like with that also came the confidence in your speech that people are noticing. And I don't know that you had some kind of gigantic breakthrough here. I do think you also made progress in terms of like organization and follow through some, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But I think that my hope is that what you gained in group may not have borne fruit here and now, but will really continue to bear fruit going forward, especially with your communication style, because that's huge. The ability to listen, the ability to convey your thoughts, especially if you have a conversation with the head of Nintendo, like that's going to be worth a ton, as opposed to being disorganized, self-deprecate. Like, can y'all imagine, like, if you have a conversation with the head of Nintendo and you're talking a lot and not saying anything, and are self-deprecating and are doubting what you're saying, versus listening to what they're saying. Like these are the kinds of things where I don't think we've just had the time to see it. The other thing that I think is really, really, really important, which is also kind of subtle, is the fact that you showed up today, right? So as people noticed, as you noticed, like you haven't been quite, your attendance hasn't quite as been as regular, but that's actually okay. So one thing for y'all to understand is that we sort of almost set y'all up to fail a tiny bit here, because one thing that we know from data around group is that 16 weeks is really when you see solid outcomes. So from the get-go, we had kind of a truncated sort of situation. And part of the reason that it's 16 weeks is because we realized that for this kind of change, you can't expect someone to just show up. I mean, ideally they can, but shit happens, right? People have work stuff. Like Zell almost didn't come today because he was like, hey, I'm on the grind. Bye, Kathy. Case in point, Kathy's got to go, right? Kathy had a holiday party. Like, stuff happens. You're going to the video game awards. And so sometimes it just takes time for everyone to get 8-10 weeks in here, and like 16 weeks of real time is what it takes. So I don't hold that against you in any way, shape, or form. But I think one thing that I would actually applaud you for is showing up today. Because here's the thing, and I'm sure anyone who's out there who's watching right now can empathize with this. If you don't show up for a couple of weeks, each week that goes by, it's harder to show up. Right? Especially
it definitely felt hard to join the call, even though I was literally staring right at it. I knew it was happening.
Yep.
There's
And
a
so,
level of internal difficulty attached to it.
and Smirky, I can't emphasize how awesome that is, because you've told me that follow through is your problem. Showing up today is follow through. It's not just attentional, it's emotional too. Right? Because, like, oh my God, like everyone else is going to have changed so much and I haven't, like, no, like you showing up is what's important.
Right.
And like you've become a great listener. Like, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, you did like the opposite of like what I do in my stress streams, where like it's the end of the semester and I never showed up. I never to any of the classes or anything, and like there's an exam that I didn't study for, and then I'm like running to the professor to be like, God, get me out of here. But like you're actually like going into the room, whereas
Yeah.
like I'm running away from it. So, not saying that like that's exactly what you did, but you know what I mean, right? Like, tell me
Yeah,
you've had a stress stream.
I got you. I've certainly had moments where when I was in college, like show up to the class and like maybe like half or more of the class is not there, and it's not like I needed to be there for that particular day, but I still show up anyway. I have nothing better to do with my time, so
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's seriously, like, it's like you showing up today is I'd pay attention to whatever went on inside you and duplicate it. And if you do that, follow through will no longer be a problem.
yeah, follow through has even been a problem with like me streaming as well. So it's something I'm gonna continue to work on.
Yeah, and I think just because the progress that you've made is a little bit more subtle, but actually it's not so much. I don't know. I mean, because you noticed it and everyone else noticed it, right? And I think like communication skills are huge. Like that'll help you professionally so much. To be able to
I mean,
listen and hear what other people say is huge.
it's what I studied in college for 3.5 years. So
Awesome, dude.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's my bread and butter.
and I think that like you just keep doing what you're doing, and I think as other people kind of pointed out, right? Like, and this is what's kind of weird, but our goal with group and also for like our coaching program and stuff, I know it sounds kind of weird with Healthy Gamer as a whole, is to get people to leave. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but like literally our goal is that y'all don't need to come here anymore. And you know, if Ruby one day sent us, let's say hypothetically we continue group for another 20 weeks, and Ruby one day sends us a message, says, hey, I'm in Portugal now. I'm building a kiln because I want to start doing pottery. Can't make it to group today because I don't have internet, but I'm in the mountains in Portugal. That's not a failure. That's a success. For Zell to say, hey, I can't make it to group today because I'm on the grind and I started this new job and it's really demanding a lot. That's a success. For you to say, hey, I can't make it today because I'm going to the Video Game Awards, that's not something to be ashamed of. That's a success. And really our goal here is, and I think like Ruby has really learned how to do this and is kind of internalizing it, right? Is to like not foster dependence, but foster independence. The goal of y'all coming here is to no longer need to come here. You know?
It's been one of my fears, frankly, is like after this is like, am I gonna be okay? Like without this environment.
That's
like,
a great question. So honestly, the answer is both yes and no. So here's what I would leave y'all with, okay? One is that if you've made progress, and sure, we're all like kumbaya and everyone's made progress. And so I think people are pretty authentic. I think we stopped being falsely positive, by the way, for like a reason, right? Because I think it shows. Like when you're falsely positive, like you don't get the reactions that we got from like Kathy and other people. Like you just don't get that. But here's what I'd say. If you've made progress, like it's like if I exercise and diet for a while and I start to get in shape, what do I need to do to continue staying in shape? Do I get to stop? Right? No. So I'd encourage each and every one of you, I know y'all have all gone through coaching and stuff as well, but to like recognize that it doesn't have to be this group. Although we can sort of talk about that and we'll maybe send y'all some info and stuff. But I would encourage you to like, don't stop what works. Big mistake that people in our community make, a big mistake we make in general is that, so I see this a lot in terms of like things like antidepressant medication. It's like you start someone on an antidepressant medication and they feel better in 6 months and then they want to stop because I feel better now. I don't need it anymore. And there's a good, I'm all for stopping antidepressant medication in the right way, but let's not stop doing what was working. That actually means you need to continue doing it. So Metric, I think your fear is valid. And I would encourage you to really think about who you spend your time with and crafting some kind of group. Like, you know, we can do some of it. Y'all can always sign up for group coaching with us. One thought that I have, which I'm going to float, I don't know if we can actually do this, but we may be able to continue this group in some way. I won't be able to, but we have a ton of competent group facilitators. And by the way, like my outcomes are not necessarily better than anyone else's, to be honest. And I think if you guys really pay attention, like, did I do a lot? Sure, but y'all actually did most of the heavy lifting, which is why. The facilitator is important, but I didn't get Kathy to level up today. Right? I think we can squarely put that on Metric.
Yeah, because like once the facilitator kind of like, I guess, laid out the ground rules and kind of let us know that this door was over here to kind of open up for us to kind of get involved more and more with each session, I think that kind of like helped a lot with not us having to say, oh wow, thank you Dr. K for like everything, but like rather we can like thank each other just as much.
100%, right? And that goes back to who's responsible for change in the group?
All of us.
Absolutely, right? It's not me, which is huge. And so I'd encourage each and every one of you to think a little bit. I don't think it's a coincidence that Ruby is in a call with people like Zell and Kathy, and she's like moving full ahead on her business plan because she's absolutely a beast. She's always been a beast, but I don't know that her environment supported that part of her. I don't think it's a coincidence that Zell is getting in touch with his feelings and he's been in a call with Ruby for 3 months. So a small amount of exposure is all it takes consistently to start to change in a particular way. And if you kind of look at what's happening in group, that once again, it's like clearly it's not me. I mean, hopefully I don't have to convince y'all at this point. Right? It's like what people are bringing to the table. Here's Metric, who self-deprecating, and in that same false way of like supporting himself was sort of like supporting people and being nice, but then he learned how to love himself. And once he learned how to love himself, then he can really like support other people.
Also, not gonna lie, I'm really proud of myself that I cracked Kathy. I'm just like,
Yeah, right?
That's
I mean,
second birthday present right there. Let's go.
she's got some pretty high armor rating, and you need some good crit chance to get to what you know? And that like you can't do that unless you learn how to love yourself. And so I do think that Metric's concern is like incredibly valid, that y'all should be really thoughtful. Like I don't want Ruby going to yoga retreats. I want you to be going to whatever networking business incubator event kind of crap, right? And like Metric may have all of his self-deprecating friends who go out and like have a good time, but like I you need to find people who will challenge you. You need to find people who you can be like, wow, like what would Kathy do? Just think a little bit about how you're changing your thinking. You made a pivot. You wake up every fucking day and you applied to things and you got interviews. Right? And for Smirky, like for you, like continue like engaging with people and active listeners and be around people. For Zell, you should go to yoga retreats. Right? So continue to think a little bit about, and that's the whole point behind group, is that if you think a little bit about what were the challenges that all of y'all face, it's individual challenges. And so of course you're going to see it may be natural and echoes. You've all been conditioned to compare. So everyone here, I'm sure, was nervous, right? We didn't even talk about it, but I'm sure you're nervous about, oh, did I make enough progress? And all these other people are making progress, and did I make enough progress? If you guys have really grown, then you didn't think that. But if you're anything like me, you did think that. And for you to recognize that each of y'all are walking your own journey. And each of y'all made progress in your dimension. And that's the beautiful thing, is that like we can learn from each other. The whole point of life is that we're out there like looking for answers, right? I need to fix this. I need to fix this. And there are people who are out there who are just in our normal acquaintance, or maybe with a little bit of effort, who are experts in the things that we need to learn. And the reason that life is hard is because we're starting from zero with every dimension. Relationships, how to open up, how to set boundaries, how to wake up every day, how to get organized, how to not be a lazy ass, how to start being a lazy ass. And it's like beautiful, because we have people around us who can show us. And the biggest challenge of even personal work is that I can't, if y'all are working one-on-one with me, I can't demonstrate for you how to do it. Does that make sense? But y'all can demonstrate for each other. You can model for each other how to do it. Because I ain't perfect. I can't show y'all how to do everything that y'all, each of us is like A+ at something. And when we start to share those things, when one person starts to challenge, and this is the other really good thing that y'all did, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but very little advice was given. Very little. And it's almost in not falling into those traps. I gotta tell you, Ruby, you really knocked it out of the park by not supporting Metric, which I know sounds bizarre.
No, I get it.
Right?
And
Like,
it helped me like think about other friends.
absolutely. Now you realize this is a pattern in your entire life. And in
You
that
said other
moment,
friend. That means I'm a friend.
in that moment, restraining yourself from that Discord message will be transformative for your whole life. Right? We have these boundaries, and we're going to like teach y'all boundaries and stuff like that. And then like Metric too. This guy has grown up, man. He's like adulting.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought?
You know what's really funny though? I think it was like in the first meeting, somebody asked like, "Why are we here? Who picked us?" And you were like, "I don't even know why you're here," because you didn't know anything about us or anything
I
really.
asked you like any questions. I was like, why am I here?
But honestly, whoever picked us, whoever picked us, and the fact that we all contrasted against each other so well, like maybe Christmas bonus them a little bit. I don't know, just.
Yeah, so the funny thing is, from a data perspective, and I know we need to wrap up, but I can't leave this alone. So from a data perspective, we actually see some really interesting things. If you create a homogeneous group, the group does really well. If you create a heterogeneous group, the group does really well. But they do well in different ways. And so this is the really bizarre thing. It's like some people will come in a group and be like, I have nothing in common with these people. But the ability to develop commonality with someone who's at the opposite end of the spectrum, I honestly think that's what the world needs. We need people of opposing religious beliefs, people of opposing political beliefs, people of opposing what's the best MOBA, right? Like, and to get all of us in a group together and to start to realize that like, oh, actually like this person, and it's just different. So what we start to see, I mean, this is from kind of like a video game perspective, but what we start to see is that, if you're like A and F in terms of various skills, I think what I saw today in this heterogeneous group is that all the Fs became Cs. And what we tend to see in homogeneous groups is all the A's go to S. And which one is better? I don't know. I honestly think that this is better, because I think what holds you back in life is not what you're good at, it's what you're bad at. Right? Like Ruby learning how to set boundaries, like that's going to be transformative. Zell, like learning how to not bull his way through what he wants in life is going to be transformative. Metric saying, I'm going to make someone very happy one day, like that's going to be transformative. Smirky learning how to listen, that's going to be transformative. Kathy allowing herself to be seen by other human beings and allowing other human beings to appreciate her is going to be transformative. And that's what we try to do here. And like, y'all should seriously give yourself a huge pat on the back, because if y'all didn't believe it before now, just like pay attention to what happened here today. And this is the work. This is what y'all have done. Seriously. So strong work, everybody. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for, your team reaching out and including all of us. This was a great group.
I had no idea it was going to be like this when I accepted it. That's the
Me
thing,
neither.
yeah.
Honestly, that's the challenge we face, because I don't even know how to describe this, right? Because if you tell people, hey, you're going to come in and be transformed, then they come in expecting, like, fucking, if we had told that to Zell would have come in and he would have never been transformed. Y'all see that? Like, that's the challenge. Zell will, like, transform you. Like, sure, he would have showed up all fired up, but, like, we can't transform you. You have to do it yourself. And like, that's what's so hard. But anyway, thank you all very much. And any last thoughts before we wrap up our final group stream?
Take care of yourself. Merry Christmas. See your family if you can. Pet your pets. Yeah, make good choices.
Stay in touch.
Yeah, so just on that note, so remember that we set boundaries around interactions during group, but the whole point is that after group you guys can do whatever, right? But during group we did set those boundaries, and I think those were really important, but it doesn't, like, this is just for 10 weeks or whatever. So if y'all want to stay in touch, y'all are more than welcome to do that. And I wish you all the best. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, Dr.
Appreciate
K.
it.
Everyone, yeah.
Thank you.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, so that's group. It's so hard to describe, man. Like, so sometimes you just have to see it. And even in terms of a viewer experience, right? It's challenging because, like, you're not going to... So here's the challenge that we face at HG. We have streams or we have interviews where you'll see, like, a breakthrough. But the challenge is that a understanding breakthrough, we're not sure how much actual change a single moment of insight creates. Does it create change? Absolutely. How much? We don't know. How long does it last? We don't know. So we're like kind of a data-driven organization, right? So the whole like neuroscience research for a couple of years, becoming a doctor, psychiatrist, whatever, all that good stuff. So what we've actually found is that the sexy stuff is not directly correlating with change. That real change oftentimes is quite benign. Right? And it's like, oh, like after 8 weeks, I applied for 3 jobs. I sent out 5 job applications. I got 1 interview and 1 rejection. Is that transformative? Doesn't sound like it. Right? Oh, like I learned how to listen better. I'm writing a business plan. Or I'm learning that I don't understand my emotions. I've stopped looking for answers on the outside and I'm looking for answers on the inside. That one sounds kind of cliche, but transformative. But this is the whole point, is like, if you look at someone like Metric, my real question is, in the past 3 years, 5 years, how many jobs have you applied to? And so we have this idea of transformation. And so we even have particular goals for ourselves, but what we don't even realize is that the goals that we need, the ways in which we grow, are oftentimes not things that we're aware of, which is exactly why we have all these problems. Because we don't even realize, like, if we knew what was really wrong, then we could fix it. If your life is stuck in some way, the reason it's stuck is not because you don't know how to fix it, it's because you don't realize what's wrong. Right? For someone like Ruby to think, oh, what I really need to do is stop helping people. That feels so antithetical to who Ruby is as a person. And so oftentimes the most transformation that we get is out of changing our fundamentals. But those are the things that we take for granted. They're not the things that Because if you walk in, you ask Ruby on week 1, what do you need to do? I need to get better at helping people. Right? I need to be better. If I was better, I could help them more. And it feeds right into it. And you'll see that with Zell too towards the end. Where he's like, okay, like, oh man, all this self-development is exhausting. And it's like, take a break, bro. No, I can't. Playing into the same damn pattern. And this is something that, you know, this concept is very well described by Carl Jung, by the way. So Jung kind of said, we all have a shadow, and the shadow is the part of ourself that we don't look at. And that's where the most growth is to be made. Why is the most growth to be had by working on the shadow? It's because if we see everything else, that's what we sort of work on in a kind of a default sort of way. And this is the other hard thing, is that everyone's like looking for an answer, right? Like Zell, I think, is a great example of this. He's like, show me how to transform my life. But it's like, no, you don't, like, we're all out there looking for answers. And Ruby sort of touched on this, which I kind of piggybacked on. There's a self-help industry. But despite being a self-help industry, it's not like everyone is walking around as transformed, enlightened, top of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs individuals. Because when you buy a book that gives you an answer, it's generic. This is the basic problem with science, right? Science is population-based. So we'll say, like, if you adopt, this is the healthiest diet, it causes people to do this. Or not even, forget about diet. Let's talk about something like cholesterol medication. Cholesterol medication, on average, lowers cholesterol by this amount, prevents heart attacks this percentage of the time, reduces mortality risk by this. It's all probability. Nothing is individualized. And the more that we've come to the internet, the more we have these, like, you know, it's all scalable, right? Even us at Healthy Gamer or AOE. And yet there's a problem because no amount of AOE will be personalized to you. Right? This is why you need individual attention and support, because you are a unique individual. You have a unique genetics. You were born at a particular time. You have unique experiences. You have unique mind. You have unique personality. Sure, you can map onto Myers-Briggs or Ayurveda or 5-factor or whatever, but there are no two people who have the exact same 5-factor breakdown who are exactly the same. So we can learn on a scalable level. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's what we do. But if you really want to change, it's got to be personalized. And the scary thing is we don't want it to be like that. Right? And so we get this a lot, and I saw some good suggestions in here, so we'll make some videos about, you know, why it's so hard to show up after you've been not showing up. And stuff like that. So we'll pull some AoE stuff out of here to be sure. But at the end of the day, like if you really want to change your life, it can't be through a generic format. It has to be individualized. And I don't mean individualized in the sense that it has to be one-on-one. Like, sure, you can sign up for one-on-one coaching, or you can do therapy or whatever. But you've got to work on you, right? So even our community event, like Right in the Fields, is really good, because why are we seeing change there? It's because it's not about, like, education, right? It's about right and, like, there's this really great exercise about communication. So, like, what is something that you don't want to communicate? What are the emotions that you feel that get in the way of you saying it? It's got to be individualized. And you can do it on your own, right? There's like a DIY method. But the DIY method is going to be inefficient. Will you ever, like, who knows how long it'll take you to get there? Right? So this is the kind of thing where it's like, it's hard to describe. And one of the biggest challenges that we have is, I mean, y'all saw group today, hopefully. You saw what happened. How the hell do we explain that to people? I don't even know how to explain that. What's it going to do? It's going to transform your life? That sounds grandiose. It's going to create the wrong expectations. It'll help. Help with what? We don't know. This is the biggest challenge, is that what people need help with is not what they think they need help with. Right? It's like Zell came here looking for answers, and what he needed to do is stop looking outside for answers. But you can't tell him that at the beginning. He'll never show up. You have to trick someone into growth. Right? Sometimes y'all know what you need, which is fine. Like, we're not saying that y'all never know. But this is the value of group, because there are some things that people knew they needed, right? We asked them, what do you want to work on? So Metric was like, I want to work on follow through. Ruby's like, I'm ambitious. Right? Zell is like, I want to understand, like, I want to figure out what I need to do with my life. So all of those goals are perfectly good, and we focused on those. It's just the assumptions that we have around those goals can be very wrong. That Metric's problems with follow through and procrastination, it's not like he had any problem following through with showing up for his job interview. How the hell did that happen? It's because we worked on his confidence. And once you have confidence, once you realize you have something to offer other people, then you're going to show up for your job interview. But the problem is that we don't connect the dots that way. And so what we need is not what we think we need. And so even if you have a particular goal, we'll help you get there. It's just the way to get there may look a little bit different, right? We're sitting at the bottom of a mountain and we're looking up to the peak and we say, I want to go from point A to point B. And so what we all want is a helicopter. Whereas what we need to do is walk around to the opposite side of the mountain where it's way less steep and there are switchbacks and you can climb. That's how you're going to get to the top of the mountain, because here we are waiting for these like solutions, right? I need this. I need to stop procrastinating. What the hell? Like, you can't do that. You can't just stop procrastinating. And this is where a lot of people will say, oh my God, everyone's like, just exercise, right? And then we as a community meme that. You're like, just exercise. That's impossible. If it was that easy, I would have done it, right? So we crap on them for telling people like, oh, just wake up every day. Just be disciplined. And we'll be like, just. Ha ha ha. That's impossible. Except when we come to our own goals. And I just need to write a novel. I just need to stop procrastinating. I just need to stop playing video games. We'll meme when it comes to someone else, but when it comes to our own goals, that's what we'll expect from ourselves. Pay attention to your own mind. Right? And that's why we're stuck, because it doesn't work. And so the crux of group is that it's easier to see things in other people than it is to see things in yourself. But when you see something in someone else, you will learn from it. And the learnings that you get, you will take away. Right? How do you think Zell learned how to look into himself? It's because there are a lot of people around him that were doing it. Right? How do you think Metric learned confidence? It's because there are a lot of people around him that were doing it. And so you get to see it on an authentic level, on a deep level. Not on like this is a YouTube video about 5 tips to build confidence, which I'm sure we'll make at some point. But like YouTube is full of tips. And are people getting helped? Yeah, but like, I don't think Metric applied for the first couple jobs he has in God knows how long and learned how to love himself from watching YouTube videos. He learned it from doing work. And that's what group is. Group is work. You got to show up. You got to bring your feelings, right? You got to bring your aspirations. You got to bring your goals. You got to bring your ears. You got to open doors that you don't want to open. There's a lot of discomfort there. But it's a safe place for you to be uncomfortable. Anyway. Who are we rating, by the way? Chat. Just deprogram 4 billion years of evolution? Absolutely. Honestly, like, that's what we got to do. I'm not even kidding. Right? Like that's Pajander's like spot on. Because what's going on right now is like our society is taking advantage of billions of years of evolution. That's what like advertising is, right? So even if you look at something like colors on advertising, why do they include different colors? Why don't you ever see a gray ad? What are they taking advantage of? They're taking advantage of billions of years of evolution. So everyone out there is learning how to take advantage of evolution. That's what leads to success. Hell, we do it too. That's why we have to make things funny. Right? Like, we have to make things funny to get y'all to stick around. And if y'all stick around, hopefully you'll be benefited in some way. And so actually the bizarre thing is that if you want to get out of all of this, like especially technology related stuff, right? If you want to like not be such a doomer about the world, like people are discovering, like go out and touch grass. Right? You actually have to kind of deprogram yourself. You're not wrong. Because everyone else is taking advantage of your evolutionary psychology and what your brain wants. Yeah, Neil Dammon's very, very well said. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. So I see there's a complex question. Who are we raiding, by the way, chat? I got to figure out who to raid. Okay, Raidits, Fobmaster. We're gonna stream tomorrow, by the way, chat. So I think I'll see y'all tomorrow. And I saw that Crazy J had a question about ADHD. So two things I'd say. One is that if you've got like a really specific question about your ADHD, talk to the person who diagnosed you. Secondly, we do have a guide on ADHD, which you can check out. But I think that my general thought is that you've got to be a little bit careful about assuming that a problem that you have is ADHD related. Right? So just because you have ADHD doesn't mean that boundary setting is because you have ADHD. There may be an intersection there, probably is. But that's one thing that I see a lot is that once people have a diagnosis, they will use that diagnosis as a is the defining problem for all of their problems in life. So you got to be a little bit careful about that. Right? And just because you have ADHD doesn't mean that all of your problems are caused by ADHD. It probably has something to do with it. All right? So we'll see y'all hopefully tomorrow. Take care, everybody.